So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about my miscarriage stories. So if this, might be not a good time for someone who's going through that and it might kind of trigger you, you might want to skip this one or have a friend listen to it for you, or you listen to it to get some advice on what you can do to help. So when we first got married, I wasn't expecting to have anything happen. Like I just figured we'd get pregnant one day and we'd have babies. And we ended up getting pregnant pretty quickly in our marriage, and a couple of months, and we were really excited. And sadly, 13 weeks into that pregnancy, they couldn't find a heartbeat. And so we were really, really devastated. We felt like we got to the end of the first trimester, and it was, getting, really excited about it. And sadly, they couldn't find a heartbeat. And so a lot of times they'll tell you to go and have, like a D&C or something like that. But thankfully, our doctor knew that the risk for that is kind of hard with your uterus, that they could end up puncturing or hurting, scarring your uterine lining. So he said the healthiest way is really to go home and let it happen naturally. So we went home, and he said, you're just going to get like some really bad cramps. You might want to take some ibuprofen or something like that. And we went home, and it really, it did not turn out to be like period cramps. I didn't realize at the time what was going on, but I went into full-blown labor. And I remember walking around our little tiny 600 square foot apartment that we lived in when we were first married, and I didn't know what was going on. And I just started like pacing around, doing circles around our little apartment, because I didn't know what this pain was so bad. And my husband went and picked up a little heating pad for me at Walgreens, and I was trying to lay on that. Nothing was working, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And so we went into the ER at that point, because the bleeding was getting worse and the pain was really getting worse. And I'd really never seen my husband Shannon cry, but on the way to the hospital, he started choking up, because he was sad about the baby. Number two, he couldn't stand to see me in so much pain. And he drove me to the ER, and when we got there, I was still pacing and pacing, because just trying to get away from that pain and those labor pains. And they pulled me back into the ER. They wouldn't let him come back, which was really hard. And when I got back there, they left me in the room by myself for a while, and it was really hard, like being alone. It was very difficult. And then the doctor came back in, and he went to examine me. And in one push, the baby came out whole and intact. The sac didn't even rupture. And at that point, they'd put me on all this pain medication. And so I was really out of it. My husband wasn't in the room. And I remember them bringing the baby by, and I looked, and I could see the baby, but I was so like drugged and out of it. And the nurse, she said, "This is the baby. We're going to take it back and do some testing and see what was wrong." And I said, okay. I shook my head, yes. And then she took the baby away, and then they finally let my husband come in after a while, and they got me finished and, cleaned up and everything taken care of. And then they sent us home. And a couple weeks later, I had a friend who mentioned to me that her friend had had a miscarriage, and that it was at a Catholic hospital up north somewhere, and that they keep all the babies that are miscarried, and that they offer them to the couples to have them buried. And even if the couples don't want to have them and bury them themselves, then the Catholic hospital buries them. They have a little baby cemetery that they bury these miscarried babies. And I all of a sudden just started bawling and crying. And I realized, oh my gosh, I left my baby. Like, I left my baby at the hospital. They said they were going to do tests, but I never went back. No one had ever told me you could do something like that. So I called the hospital, and I said, I had a miscarriage there, and our baby's body, we would like to get it back so that they were going to run tests, but we would like to get it back so we can bury our child. And they informed me in a not so like just very nonchalant manner. She's, oh, we incinerate those with the medical waste. They don't have it anymore. And even talking about that now, 18 years later, we would have a little 17 or 18-year-old now. It was really, really tough. And I have made it my mission. The next baby, we made it my mission to tell women that story so that they know they can ask for their baby. They can ask for their baby's remains, and they can bury that child, and they can name that child. That was a child, that was a soul, and you can do that. So with our second miscarriage, we went on to have another miscarriage at 13 weeks. And it was very difficult because we were going through this again. We were walking this path again. But this time I knew what to do. This time I miscarried. I went into full-on labor again, but I stayed home this time. I could have gone to the hospital, and that would have been okay too, but I would have asked for the remains. But this time I did have the baby at home. There's a website called Heaven's Gain you can go to, and they even have little collection kits that you can collect your baby and the remains of your child. And I was able to collect our baby's remains. And then we're very fortunate and blessed that my sister-in-law is actually a mortician, and so she was so sweet and wonderful in that time for us, and still very thankful to her for this to this day, that she helped us to put the baby in a little casket and plan an entire memorial mass for our child. And we just invited our close friends and family into the chapel of our church, and we said a mass, and we had some flowers arranged around that little tiny casket. And I remember that day was so hard, but I knew I had to trust in Jesus, and I had to trust that He has a plan, and that we're just reading a book of our life right now, and we might be only up to a certain chapter, but God knows the whole story. And I had to trust in that. That was the only thing that got me through it. Divine Mercy is one of my favorites. And so looking at a Divine Mercy image of Jesus and saying, Jesus, I trust in you. If you've never looked up that story, you can Google that, Divine Mercy, St. Faustina. But that really got me through that. And that's when I really, as a convert, I really had not prayed the rosary very much. My husband would lie in bed at night trying to teach me how to pray it. But when I had that second miscarriage, that is when I was taken to my knees. And sometimes it's in the valleys that we grow. And I really started praying my rosary like every day. And I started going to daily mass because I needed the Eucharist. I started having panic attacks at this point. I remember like having to breathe into a paper bag. And the rosary and the Eucharist were the only things that got me through it. And one of the things I will say, looking back on it now as a fertility care practitioner, is that those panic attacks, those miscarriages I was having, they were all related to low progesterone. And I'm very thankful that later on we found the Creighton model system, a fertility aware, natural, modern fertility awareness method. And God sent those as gifts and answers. He sent, me that I was grabbing onto the rosary, that I was grabbing onto the Eucharist, that I learned that there was something called the Creighton System that could help us to figure out why we were having these losses. And so through the Creighton System, I was able to get progesterone support, not only because once you have a miscarriage, it's like you had a baby. And so sometimes you can go into like a depressive state and an anxious state due to your hormones. And I was going through that. And I was feeling just really in a low spot. And so through the prayer, and also our NaPro physician who was able to give me a natural bioidentical progesterone, I was able to come out of that hole, that black hole that I was in. Our Lord, he reached his hand. It's like I was drowning, and he reached down and he pulled me out. And he sent me people to help. And we were so thankful for that. And then we were able to, after that, we were able to carry our babies to term using NaPro. We grieve the loss of our other babies, and these babies will never replace it, but it's true, like you hear about these rainbow babies, a baby that you have after a loss, and it's true. it does help to get over that grief. You never forget those babies. We named our little baby Shannon and baby Riley. I have two little, I know they're not angels, but sometimes I know they're souls, but we have two little angel statues in our living room next to, we have all the baby pictures lined up of all of our babies. We have 7. We're blessed to have 7. God is so good. But we have two little angel statues next to those baby pictures, because I know little Shannon and little Riley are praying for our family, and that we have even more reason to want to be saints, so that we can all be joined together in heaven one day. And so I just want to share with you that I walked that journey, and if anybody out there is going through that, and it's definitely hard, but there are answers. And even since then, I will say that we've been able to, not only NaPro to help us with carrying our babies to term, but with our last pregnancy, our 7th baby, I have really gotten more into a natural lifestyle by changing my diet to strictly organic, paleo, keto type diet, making sure I exercise like 4 to 5 times a week, even like short workouts, like HIIT workouts, high intensity workouts where they're like 12 to 15 minute workouts just to get your heart rate up and going, just get a good sweat in. We have taken lots of supplements. Definitely, there are really good supplements out there that can help you, balancing your hormones. And also we've gone to a chiropractor, a really good Christian chiropractor that's helped with that can help if your nervous system is out. Then you can take all the supplements and eat all the organic food you want, but if your body can't absorb it properly, it's not going to help you. So we were able to do all of these things, and actually this last pregnancy, my hormones completely went to textbook normal, and I did not even need to supplement with bioidentical progesterone. And we were able to carry that baby to full term through just changing my diet and my lifestyle. And so those are something you can look into also, and I'll probably do some more videos on that too. But I hope this story has helped you, or maybe you can share it with someone that you know. There are ways to help prevent miscarriage. The Creighton System has an over 90% success rate in helping couples to sustain pregnancy. And again, looking at natural ways to monitor and maintain your hormones. So anyways, I hope this helps. And if you've been through something like this, I know how hard it is, and I really pray for all of you watching this video who've been through that, and that you can find it in your heart to give that place and that sadness that you went through over to Jesus, and ask him to guide you and help you to find ways that you can change your body, change your heart, and move on. God bless.